Okay. Okay. Hi again, everybody. My name is Professor Kalsee kohs. This is Divination Academy, and I am so happy you're here with me this afternoon. We'll do a little bit of housekeeping. I'm not sure if I recognize everybody's name here, but also for the replay. If you're catching the replay, again, this is Dark Goddess Devotionals series with Professor Kalsee kohs, and today I'm covering the Egyptian Goddess Sekhmet. I'm pretty excited to cover her. She's got a similar feel to another deity that I covered previously, Kali Ma, but it is a little bit different. But she does give off like this really fierce, intense, ferocious like power and idea of retribution and this like burning flame of like protection and wrath, and it's amazing. She's also very healing and comforting though as well, so we'll talk about that too. A little bit of housekeeping here, because again, I don't know if I recognize every name that's in here today. Um, my name is Professor Kalsee kohs. I consider myself a gray witch and a mystic. I pull from everywhere, from every pantheon. I try to pull from what is culturally like appropriate and ethical. I try to make sure that I focus on the historical aspects. I focus on the region, the actual like the religion, the worship, all of that. And I pull from everywhere. So I don't believe in just like love and light. I don't believe in just like darkness. I'm all about gray duality and living in the liminal space. And that is why I consider myself a mystic as well and a great witch practitioner. So that's how I teach. So I teach from everywhere. I try to give you guys as much information and knowledge as I can. And then when I do summon and invoke today, which I always do most times when I'm working with deities because it is a specialty of mine, I do it with a sense of gray magic. So it isn't going to be all love and light. You are going to experience your shadows. It's going to be steeped in shadow work and meditation, and that's what I love to do, and that's how I teach, and that's what I'm here for. A little bit about Divination Academy, if you're just finding us, especially on the replay, and if you're new in class today with me, we are a free pagan academy. We believe that education should be free and accessible to all. That is like our core belief. So everything that we do here is always offered to you for free. Every class, every event, every club, everything that we do. And we believe in making sure that everybody has access to like accurate, ethical knowledge on all pagan paths and religions and cultures. We cover paganism, witchcraft, all sorts of paths. If you love what you see here, you can also enroll as a student for free. When you enroll, you get access to our certification programs, our private apprenticeships, our community, our private community chats. You get a student page to keep track of all of the classes that you've attended for your certification programs. So definitely, if you like what you see, send us a message simply at our Facebook page with the word enroll, and we will walk you through the process and we'll get you enrolled for free. Other resources for you, we do have our website, divinationacademy.com. On there, you'll have access to study guides from my classes and other professors' classes, resources. We even put almost entire PDFs of whole books and grimoires on there for you. We have information about our professors, information about Academy. There's just a lot of stuff there. So go check it out. And then we have our YouTube page. That's where all the replays get posted. So after they're reviewed, and because we want to make sure we meet community standards, so after the review, they do get posted to our YouTube page. So definitely go check that out. You just have to search Divination Academy. We're literally the only one. We pop up right away with our same logo that we have on Facebook. And I think I checked this morning, we have 182 videos. I was wrong yesterday. I thought it was 188, but it's 182. So we have 182 classes already posted for you guys to watch. So go check it out. It's a lot of cool topics. Okay, that's it for housekeeping. If I didn't see that anybody needed the study guide, if you do, please put it in the chat. So I can certainly link it again. But if you're new, I teach from my study guides. Everything that I'm going to teach from you is all there. That's also going to be free for you to always have access to. All my information's there. Obviously, you'll get extras while I'm teaching and talking, but that's really the core. So that's all the information I have access to. And then the last thing, while I'm teaching, I get really distracted by the chat. So you can put questions in the chat whenever you would like. I may not answer it right away, but I do always come back to it and I will get to it. So you can plop them in there, but if I don't answer right away, like don't feel offended or feel like I'm ignoring you. I literally just get distracted and I can't keep teaching. So let's get going. We're gonna jump into Sekhmet. I am, like I said, I'm pretty excited to do her. She's a pretty ferocious power. I really love to use her when I'm having issues with anger, for dealing with retribution and injustice. And she's really great for like healing and like burning down barriers in the middle of shadow work. So when I have blockages that I've been really struggling with, and I'm very aware that are there, I'm very aware that I'm struggling with it. I'm very aware it's a topic that I need to work through shadow work. I'll call her in a lot of times instead of like my patron deity because she just has this ability to literally just burn everything to the ground. We're gonna talk about like her stories and mythologies, but she literally almost completely destroyed all of humanity. She it only stopped because they got her drunk. By the way, very similar story to Kalima. If you didn't watch that class, that is already posted. But she is kind of a similar feel to her, but is a little bit different. Um, Okay, let's jump into the study guide now. So, Sekhmet, she is considered the lioness goddess of ancient Egypt. She is usually tied to Bastet and Hathor as well. She's usually more seen like as the more ferocious, the more bloodthirsty, the more powerful, the more vengeful, the more strong, all about war. She's really seen as that pure rage side, whereas Bast is more of that fun-loving, all about pleasure and life kind of aspect. Um, Sekhmet's known as a Lady of Terrors, one of her epithets, the Mistress of Dread, the Lady of Flame, and she's really known for being an incredibly fierce goddess of war. That's one of her main parts of her duality is being a goddess of war. Her symbol and sigil was worn by many of the pharaohs when they were going into war and going to battle. King Ramses wore her like right on his plate. They called to her in war. She's also even seen as a deity of sovereignty as well and of the kingship. She is the deity that is meant to protect the kings themselves when it comes to the afterlife and crossing over and making sure they get to where they, get to the other side correctly. And she provides the protection to do that. So she's also known as being incredibly fierce and protective, which is tied into that goddess of war. But then she's so steeped in duality because she's also known to be a goddess of healing. Most physicians, this was their primary deity. It was Sekhmet. Like she was known as the deity of physician and medicine. She was known as being the deity of healing. This is because she was also known as the deity of pestilence and plagues and all of that destruction. And it is thought and said that if you have the ability to control the pestilence and the plagues and all the destruction, the death, and the ailment, you have the ability to control the cure. So that's why she's seen as being incredibly healing because she can be so incredibly destructive, but then she can also turn around and just heal you if she chooses to, and if she chooses that you're worthy and part of her pride. Um, like a lioness, like Sekhmet, like she really is incredibly protective over her pride. She will guard them, she will guide them, she will hunt and defend for them. She will hunt and arise like whenever it needs, and she will not stop until the ground is literally dripping in blood. She's very much known as being incredibly bloodthirsty, and that's because of one of her main mythologies and stories, which I will go over in detail later with you. That is tied to her and Ra, and literally she almost took out all of humanity. She is, like I said, they consider the Egyptian goddess of war, healing, and also the sun. So she's also considered the goddess that's connected to the sun. You see that with most of her images. You'll see her a lot of times with that solar disk up above her head. So she's connected to that, like very vital, strong, confident, powerful, like brave, courageous, like energy of the sun. So that's also why you see her attached to that war. And then I've also touched on how she's attached to plagues. She's also known as the patron deity of physician and healers because she could cure disease and spread it. She was very much equally feared and worshipped. She was a very, very prominent goddess in Egypt and within the Egyptian pantheon. Um, she's right up there with Isis. She's incredibly important. She's incredibly powerful. I mean, in Karnak, there are so many statues of her. Like her visage is everywhere. She's very much known to be sought after for protection. Which is why she's so important as well. You see her also, part of her image is she's got a cobra attached also to the top of her. So she's considered very fierce with that sense of being a lioness mixed with a cobra, which makes her just like this incredibly intense, deadly power that you just don't want to deal with. Um, Most often, when she's used in witchcraft, it's typically for protection purposes. Typically, that's usually what she's used, and then also healing and medicines. But you usually see her used for protection, and she's really, really good for that. So who is she? Let's get into the nitty-gritty of really who she is, and let's break it down. So Sekhmet, like I said, ancient Egyptian goddess of war. Um, the worship and belief of her is thought to have been born in Lower Egypt. She's thought to be really right next to Bast and right next to Hathor. There's even some theories that she actually is just a different image and visage and a different side of Hathor, actually. That they are the same, one and the same deity. It's just the duality. And I can kind of understand that. Sometimes when it comes to a lot of pantheons and a lot of different cultures and religions and a lot of deities that encompass duality, you will end up seeing them kind of split at some point because it seems a little bit hard for our human brains to really fully understand duality. So I get why we could see her represented as both, as that one entity, and it's just both sides of her. And I also see her being represented as two separate entities. It really just depends. You see, like again, you see a representative both. It's a disagreement between scholars and archaeologists on what she actually is. But they do agree that she typically, actually, no, they don't 100% agree on this. I take it back. Um, the most common belief is that she is the daughter of Ra and that she actually was Ra's eye that was transformed into his daughter, into a deity. There are other mythologies and other stories that actually say that she is the daughter of Nut, the sky, and Geb of the earth. So of course, every deity we can never agree on heritage. We can never agree on that. That's always something we disagree on. But more often than not, you will see people, most scholars, most archaeologists and historians, they agree with the fact that she's the daughter of Ra and she's literally his eye. So she is known as the Eye of Ra. That is another epithet. That is another name for her. She is known as one of his very formidable daughters. That he actually literally employed her to punish humanity when he literally just got sick of us. That's one version of the story. There's a couple different versions, and I'm going to talk about it when I go get into detail, as always. But literally, it's thought that he literally like deployed her to punish us because he was getting sick of us and how we were treating him and not respecting him the way that we should be. And it was thought that we were going to overthrow him, and it was just this whole big thing. And he literally plucked his eye out, created her, and sent her out to come wreak havoc. She actually nearly destroyed the entire human species with her wrath, and it is said that her breath is literally fire. It is said in quite a few different poems, quite a few different texts, quite a few different stories, and tablets about worship that it's even thought that like her breath is the reason why the desert even exists. That when this whole thing happened and she came after humanity, her breathing breath of fire was so hot it scorched the earth and it created the desert. And so literally she's very much known for that. That's very common across all of her stories and across almost all the texts that I find about her. And it's really the symbolization of her wrath and her connection to the hot fire and the element of this planet sun, because she really is connected to the element of fire and the planet sun. Um, I apologize. So she is known to be like literally Ra's an actor of vengeance and a destroyer of enemies. So that's why she's tied to standing up for injustice and your personal power and retribution, because it's said that that's literally what she was born for. Ra literally had birthed her for this fact of being his vengeance because he wasn't going to do it, and she was literally his weapon of doing that. She's considered the destroyer of literally his enemies. That's also why she's represented by the lioness. Lioness, if you actually haven't studied and looked at lionesses, like they're incredible, like they're very powerful and strong and very protective. They can be quite vicious when it comes to protecting their pride and their cubs and their young. And so like that's why like she's also really represented with that. It's also thought to believe that she's also represented by the lioness because of the region that her worship was born in. Lions weren't like a super common thing to be seen. They were still a little bit more like they were more of like a mystical kind of creature, and but they were also very much revered and respected, and they understood the power and they understand that they needed to fear them and what they could possibly do. So that's why she ended up becoming attached to them because like they weren't as frequently seen in that region. Let's see here. Okay. I dived pretty deep in who she is and what she is. Let me jump into the chat here, and then we'll talk about what she's the goddess of and some more of her powers and things like that. Okay. So, do you guys have any questions, any comments so far? I don't see anything in the chat yet. Go ahead, honey. Hopefully I can hear you.
All right. Testing. Hello?
I can't hear you.
Dang it.
Dang it. I'm sorry. I thought I fixed it. Okay, so I guess you're going to put in the chat, unfortunately, guys. I'm sorry. I don't know why it does this. I will wait. I will be patient. Let's see. Sophia found a card from the Divine Feminine deck. Yes, she is in there. I have we might even have the same deck. There's quite a few Divine Feminine decks. Are you talking which one? Who's the artist? And I'm gonna assume it's a Divine Feminine Oracle deck too. Yeah, I have that one. I like that one. I like the art in that deck a lot. Yeah, you said Megan, and I knew right away who it was gonna be. It was Watterson. Yeah, I like hers a lot. Also, why am I blanking on her name? It starts with an R, and why am I blanking on it? She's the creator of the Moonology decks too. Gosh, what's just her name? She does a really, really great goddess oracle deck. She's been showing up for you. I'm curious to see like what kind of way she's showing up. Yasmin, yes, yes, Yasmin Boland, yes, she's got a great goddess deck too, and I believe she's in that one too. Yes, honey, I would say she could call in. Yes, yes, I would say yes. She would be able to be called in specifically to protect kids because she really, really does protect those who need protection, who are can't protect themselves. So she's really about that movement and about making sure that like we're living in a way that is like just and moral and right. And so like protecting children would like definitely fall underneath that for anywhere. I've been to the sun. Oh, I'm super jealous. I have never been to a pyramid. So I'm crazy jealous you've been to a pyramid. And you work with Kali. I love working with Kali. If you haven't seen my class, definitely check it out. I called her in for that class too, if I remember correctly. I did a summoning for her, I believe. I love working with Kali, especially with anger. She's literally my favorite when it comes to anger, working with Kali. Honey, is she related to dragons in any way? I have never come across that. I've never come across her being attached to dragons anyway. I could see why you would think so because of like the fiery breath and like that concept. But I've never come across that. So like I could definitely see like why the connection would be thought, and I could definitely see like you could possibly like combine the two, but I have not come across that. But the beauty with this path is you can always experiment and you can always see like if something's gonna work together and if it's not. Because that is the beauty of this. But no, I have not come across that, but I could definitely see that because she is steeped and dripping in the element of fire. Um, Oh, yeah, working with the Scotty energy is great. Like if somebody was, oh honey, like if somebody was picking on them, like another kid, should she be called in, or is that too? That's gonna be your personal choice, honey, and how much retribution you want to put on another kid for picking on a child. That's gonna be up to you. I would say that's probably a little strong. Um, but it also depends on like the level of being a bully and the age and your moral beliefs and how you're gonna sit with that and feel with that. But I would that might be a little strong in my opinion. Holly's, I mean, not Sekhmet's pretty. She's pretty intense. Yeah, yeah. That's what I say. You definitely could. It's gonna be up to you. Oh, that's pretty cool, Sophia. Yeah, I can't. I see that you're trying to speak, Isadora, but I cannot hear you. I don't know what's going on with my audio, but I, for some reason, cannot hear you guys. So if you want to put in the chat, I'm all for it, and I can wait. I have no problem. I'm not muted. If you guys can hear me, then I'm not muted. So maybe you guys are muted, but I'm not muted.
Can you hear us?
Yeah, Michelle, I can't hear you. It's something going on with my laptop, so I'm sorry, guys. I don't know what it is. You guys are just we're just gonna have to use a chat. I know that kind of can be a little inconvenient, and I apologize. Okay, I'll give it a little bit just to see if there's anything else you guys want to put in the chat before we jump to the next chunk here. Okay, I'll jump back in a little bit too. Okay, let's see here. Okay, so what is Sekhmet goddess of? I've kind of touched on quite a bit of it. But first and foremost, she's goddess of war and destruction. She's, like I said, considered the Eye of Ra. She's called on him to exact revenge and wrath in a lot of different old myths. She really is known that she completely rained her wrath down on humanity, and the only way that they were able to stop her was they poured out like beer that was dyed red to trick her into thinking that it was blood. They literally, it was 7,000 jars of it that they dumped into the Nile River to make her think that it was literally a river running of blood. And she was like so bloodthirsty that she literally just ran to it to drink it up and lap in it, that she became intoxicated because it was beer, and that ended up stopping her. When we go into the story in a little bit more detail in a little bit, there's quite a couple different ways of how that goes and how it ends. So we'll talk about that, but that is the gist of it. So that's why she's really known for like being incredibly destructive and bloodthirsty and brutal and wrathful. Like she literally didn't stop until she was literally tricked by getting drunk because she wanted to drink the blood of those that she'd killed. Which then also like this is very Kali Ma kind of vibes. Because if you remember, like she was literally dancing in the rain of blood, and she was only stopped because she realized she was actually dancing on top of her lover and she didn't want to kill. And that brought her back to her senses. So like if you like this is a very like intense like wrath. Like when you let this go and you experience this, like you are it's a very intense thing. She's known to bring plagues and call on epidemics, but she has the power to give life and heal as well. So if she feels that like you're worthy, if she feels that you are living up to the standards of Mat, which we'll talk about what those standards are a little bit later, if she feels you are actually living up to those standards, like she will fiercely protect you and she will heal you, and she will heal you from anything and everything that you need healing from. It's going to be an abrupt, very intense, like burn things to the ground way, but she will do it. Um, if she feels that like you are worthy and you are living up to those standards. She, even though, like I said, she's considered even monstrously violent, she was very, very deeply worshipped as a goddess of healing. She was equally revered as a goddess of healing as she was revered as a goddess of war and destruction. That's also why she's considered more of a dark goddess and why like we're talking about her because of that. She's so steeped in duality with that concept, and she's so steeped in the concept of creation and destruction, which is very, very key and crucial in the Egyptian pantheon as well. Um, very, very crucial. So she was literally said to be like an intense healer. She was able to bestow those knowledges. She's able to control all of the ailments, diseases, and plagues. So physicians and healers would call on her because they knew she had complete control of that to be able to provide them the knowledge. Amulets were worn in the shape of her constantly in order to be able to provide healing. There were remedies made in her name constantly. Her name was invoked and prayers were used for during herbal medicines and during any like most medical procedures. And then talismans and amulets were worn often for protection and healing to make sure that they were appeasing her to ward off any pestilence, to ward on any plague, ward off any illnesses and disease that could infect them and their entire family. It was incredibly common. She's, like I said, she's known as a deity of duality. She very much invokes an incredibly distinct sense of duality. Um, Outside of like Persephone, who personally, like most of you have been with class with me, she's my patron deity. Like outside of her, I feel like Sekhmet is one of the most steeped in duality of the dark goddesses that like I've ever worked with because it is a very extreme duality. It is such a bloodthirsty wrath and a bloodthirsty protection and a bloodthirsty anger and such a compassionate healing when it comes to this transformative healing and taking care of that. But it also flips so quickly. Like it's a very thin line. So she's very steeped in duality. She's invoked a very, very, very deep sense. Um, Also because there are lots of myths and stories that she is actually the lover. I'm gonna probably be pronouncing this one wrong, but Thoth, Ptah, which is said to be a creator god. So you see this destruction and creation also coming together in a union, also coming in together in this divine coupling. So she's also seen in a very, very distinct sense of duality because of that. Um, and also in she's mentioned in the Egyptian Book of the Dead. There's a lot of mentions actually of her, multiple mentions that she is meant to be both the constructive and destructive force in within the universe. Like she is written and mentioned in the Egyptian Book of Dead multiple times as being the keeper of the cosmic balance, the keeper of Ma'at. She is meant to make sure that there is an incredibly hard, distinct balance between life and death. She is meant to make sure that she controls population if it needs to, and she will resort to extremes if she has to make sure that there's cosmic balance and that Ma'at is being met. And literally, most often or not, like plagues are actually thought to be and were said to be messengers or slaughters of Sekhmet. Like they are meant to follow her commands and be there because she is meant to duel out that cosmic balance. She is meant to even make sure that everything within it is completely balanced, including the population, including us and humanity. So that she's an incredibly distinct with duality. Which is again why we're even talking about her, because that's a key part to being a dark goddess. If you guys didn't catch that class, you want a refresher of that class, I'm pretty sure that's on YouTube, but I did a whole thing on what exactly like dark goddesses are and why we're talking about them over other goddesses. Because we're talking about Sekhmet over Bast because Bast she's not considered a dark deity. She's all about pleasure and life and stuff, and she's not really steeped in that. Whereas Sekhmet, like because of that duality, they're able to bring you into your shadow space and really open you up and have you fully understand your human experience and your existence. So that's why like she's so important with that duality and why she's got so many roles. So Sekhmet and the divine feminine, she's really connected to that as well because of that concept of anger. Um, I hate the fact that I even have to say this, but like as women, we have been told we're not supposed to be angry. We're not supposed to show anger. You get angry, you get an attitude, you're a bitch. Plain and simple. You get an attitude, you fight back, you defend yourself, you get angry, you get upset, you're a bitch. Men can do it and they're totally fine. They're being manly and aggressive. But like women, we are taught we're not supposed to get angry. So Sekhmet and the divine feminine, she really helps us understand that we're allowed to be angry. We're allowed to access our sacred rage because that's really where our true strength sits. Anger is not a negative emotion. It shouldn't be an unwanted emotion. Anger is an incredibly sacred and holy emotion that brings about change in the world. If you really think about it, when true change happens, it's because anger is the motivation behind it. Joan of Arc, angry. Rosa Parks, angry. Myself, when I'm very active in political activism for the pro-abortion movement, and I was fucking pissed. And that's what pushed me to get really active and to get really into the movement and to make a huge difference in my community. My community went from having almost zero rights to where we have the most rights in the country and almost the world now for them. So like anger is what moves us. It is a motivator. It is what pushes us. So Sekhmet and that divine feminine, like she really brings us into that to remind us that like as women, like that's where our power really sits is when we're pissed. Like that's when shit gets done and that's when people listen to us. And it's okay if you get mad and you're called a bitch. Like it's fine. Like be angry, get your shit done. Like for reals. Like that's what she really brings to us with that divine feminine. Another symbol and another aspect of her, she is also seen as a goddess of sovereignty, which I love also bringing this up, connecting that divine feminine because she reminds us of like we're sovereign beings. We are divine beings. Like we are just as godly as her. We're just as godly as anybody else. We are just as divine. And she reminds us that we are divine. And then she was also actually the representation of sovereignty within the state. She was known to being the protector of the pharaohs even beyond that, she was known as being the one that was there to actually like protect the kingship and the line and all of that. So she's tied to that as well. So you see her across both aspects being tied. Let's see. When it comes to her as a dark goddess as well, she's really great as well because she opens up like your inner integrity as well, kind of. Actually, not kind of, like very much so. Because she's all about retribution and making sure that we are sticking within our morals and the guidelines of the way that we should be living. To really make sure that you are living within the standards of Mott. And if you are doing that, like you have that inner integrity, you have your morals, you speak your truth, you're honest, you're empowered, you know what you're supposed to be doing, you know right versus wrong, you know your sacred purpose and on. You've gone through your self-healing so that you can help others and protect others. That's the other part of her. She's there to ignite and burn down anything that needs to be burned down so that you can fully heal and transform. But she's doing that so you do that to help others and to protect others. Like that's what a fierce protective mother wants. They want to promote and protect healing and protection of others and others to do the same. And so she really, really helps with that. Okay, I'm gonna jump into the chat before we talk about what she looks like. See if you guys have any questions or comments. Okay, I see a heart. Awesome. I'm assuming that means I'm doing a good job, so thank you. If you guys have any questions, just put them in the chat and I will wait. Or you can see if maybe my computer suddenly wants to use their volume, but okay. I don't
Testing.
see honey, let's see. I see you trying to talk. Let's see if I can hear you. No. Damn it. I don't know what's going on.
Nah, it was just a
I
test.
probably messed with something
Still not working,
in the
right?
video game and I can't figure out how to fix it back. That's probably my fault. I'll wait. Okay, good. Oh, you haven't been in class? Well, hello from Sweden. I have no idea what our time difference is. Hello. That's really cool. And that's okay if you haven't been in classes. That's why we do the replays too, because we know we have people around the world. We have professors that aren't even in the United States. So, okay, I'll jump back in. Let's see. What does Sekhmet look like? So, in Egyptian art, she's typically depicted as a woman with the head of a lioness. Sometimes her skin is painted green, just like Osiris, because again, Osiris connected to the afterlife, death, Totally makes sense. She also is seen as carrying an Ankh sign on her left hand and a long stem lotus flower on her right hand. Her head usually is crowned by a large solar disk, not always, but usually. And that relates her to the sun god Ra, and it relates her to all and like being the eye of Ra, and it relates her to being his daughter, and like all of her powers associated with the planet. And then you also see her with a Uraeus, Uraeus, which is a cobra type serpent that's associated with the Egyptian kingship. So typically you'll see that with her as well. Often in a lot of her pictures, and a lot of her images and a lot of her stories, you'll see and hear and read about her being seated on a throne, wearing a long red dress. So this is why a lot of times you'll hear her referred to as the mistress of scarlet or the mistress of red linen. The red dress is obviously a reference her wrathful nature and her fiery breath and her connection to fire. Sometimes in some of her images, you'll also see very specific images painted specifically like over her nipples. And these are associated to illustrate the lioness or the constellation of the stars that she's attached to with Leo. So you see that on a lot of her visages as well, because she is very much connected to the zodiac sign of Leo. Um, Obviously being a lioness, Leo, it makes sense. But she is incredibly important. Like I talked about before, there are literally like 600 statues of her in Karnak, like literally just there alone. Like she's super, super important. So we actually have a really good idea of her visage because there's so many of her everywhere. We don't really question that much what she looks like. Her name and etymology, I don't know if I just said that right. But it comes from the adjective Sekhem, which literally means powerful and mighty. And then ends with T because T is literally just a suffix for female names. Many of her epithets are all incredibly terrifying and powerful, and they're meant to literally show you and demonstrate her wrath. You'll see her very often in a lot of Egyptian texts referred to as she before whom evil trembles, the mistress of dead, the mauler, the lady of slaughter. Like her names are epic. Like great gamer tags, by the way. Like great gamer tags, by the way. But like her names are epic, and like her epithets really, really speak to like who she is. Like honestly, like her name, she is so much more destructive to call than calling off for me. Like her power just is just so much. Okay, so history of her worship. So, like I said before, like her origins are kind of unclear, but it seems to be that she's born in the Delta area. Like I said, because lions are rarely seen there. That's probably why she's really attached to that. She then was actually a part of the Mephitite theology out of Memphis, which is important. Like this is an incredibly important text that was engraved in stone that talks about the lioness Sekhmet was actually the wife of Pot, Ptah, which is actually the patron god of artisans. Um, and that she's actually the mother of the lotus god Nefertum, which is why she typically has a lotus with her visage as well. More often than not, like we talked about, she's considered the firstborn daughter of the sun god Ra. Other those stories, like I said, we see her parentage being that she is that of the deities of the sky and the earth, Nut and Geb. Sekhmet was worshipped throughout all of Egypt, but really particularly where around the desert edges, where the desert really was around the desert edges, where the land was starting to become more bare. And that's really because that's the type of terrain where lions are often because they come in from the desert in order to drink and prey upon the cattle. So really along that edge, you'll see a lot of her worship around there. Um, some scholars and historians and archaeologists believe that her worship was actually introduced into Egypt from Sudan because lions are just a lot more plentiful in that region. And her main cult was located in Memphis. And she's part of the divine triad of Thoth, which is Sekhmet, Nefertum, and Thoth the creator. And then they have their son as well, which is and their son Nefertum is incredibly associated with healers and healing. Some scholars even argue that her worship, Sekhmet, actually outdates that of her husband. Thoth, the creator, Ptah. By the way, I'm not saying Thoth, but actually thought to be that like that was actually like she predates him. They actually believe that she predates him by several hundreds of years. But because there was a massive power shift in Egypt from Memphis to Thebes during the New Kingdom, which was in 1550 to 1069 BC, because there's just this massive shift of power, it just seems like that kind of got lost and she just kind of got absorbed with the whole new triad because the whole new triad that became important was Amun and Mut and Kusun. So because of that, it seems like she's kind of got swallowed up. Um, but she is seen, and there is artifacts, there's text, there are a lot of different information that she is seen at the Mut Temple as well. She's seen at Karnak. Her cult was really strong in the regions of Luxor and Memphis, also all throughout the Delta. So you do see her all throughout the places. She doesn't just like completely disappear. But you do really, 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 really see her in any temples that have to do with healing and medicine and then protection around the pharaohs. It is also thought when it came to worship that priests would actually perform rituals before a different statue of the Egyptian goddess of Sekhmet every single day to appease her anger. So that's also thought to be why there's so many of her because they needed to worship and different one every day to make sure that she was happy. So that's why it's actually thought that like there are so many vestiges of her everywhere. Like they were so worried about her wrath. They wanted to make sure she was appeased. But they were like, no, you are never gonna get jealous. You are never gonna think that we're not like honoring you. You are like every day it's gonna be something new. Um, because she was known to enjoy the taste of blood because of her myth and her story, which we're going to get to in just a minute. Every year, there's actually a feast that honored both her and Hathor because, again, there's splits and differences. Some people think that they are one and the same, some people think they're separate. But they did every year, there's a feast honoring her and Hathor to commemorate the fact that mankind was saved. So what they did is they literally just got wasted. They would drink massive amounts of beer that were stained with pomegranate juice. And the surviving records just like really talk about how like they worship the mistress of the Lady of the Doom, the destroyer of the rebellion. They and like during those celebrations, they would make sure that they would dress her statue in red facing the west, and then Bass or Hathor would be dressed in green facing the east. More often than not, you'll see Bass because it's considered the counterpart and they're considered twins. And they wanted to like accompany duality, but they literally like it was just a crazy chaotic festival. It was a crazy chaotic time. Like to me, this is almost like kind of equivalent to Lupercalia a little bit and like Saturnalia like mixed in. Granted, we didn't have the gender reversing roles swapping that like I've read about that we have with those, but like this was like they got hammered like that this festival was fun. But they made sure that they placated her. They made sure that they honored that and they wanted to soothe her wrath and all of that fun jazz. So they honored that whole story, that whole myth. Okay, let's get into her myth, guys. The most common one. Obviously, there's many different stories, there's many different texts. She pops up multiple times, even just in the Egyptian Book of the Dead. If you haven't ever read that, I highly recommend that, especially if you want to learn more about her after this class, if you want to study about her more, if you want to learn more about the Egyptian pantheon alone. The Egyptian Book of the Dead is a really great place to start. It's an amazing read. I've read it a handful of times. But that is your place to start. But I'm going to talk about the most common story that she's associated with, which is the one about her almost destroying mankind. So I'll break that one down for you. And then you guys can always, like I said, every class, I give you a little bit of detail of them. I break down popular ones in detail, and then it's always up to you to go study and look for more because that's part of building your relationship with a deity is studying, researching, and getting to know them. And I don't want to take that away from you. But so we'll go over this most common myth and story so that you have a pretty detailed look at that. So in Egyptian mythology, there's a very long and interesting tale where Sekhmet is a main character. And it's actually called The Destruction of Mankind. Like, that's literally the name of the story. It is written on funeral papyrus from the New Kingdom. So it's found they date it to about 1539, between 1292 BCE. And it's an intriguing tale. So it says that at the beginning of the time, the story goes that when gods lived among man, a rebellion was said to happen to overthrow Ra, the king of the gods. That men were literally going to overthrow and rebel against Ra. Despite being a god, Ra had become old and he had grown weaker every day. So the humans decided that he just simply wasn't fit to rule over them anymore, which was why they were going to overthrow him, rebel him. There was going to be an insurrection. But Ra was actually already ready to give up the throne. Like, he was already ready to give up the throne and return to the primordial sea. But then when he found this out, he became pissed. Like, he was so mad that he literally plucked one of his eyes out and literally demanded and stated that it was going to turn into Sekhmet. And then he ordered that Sekhmet strike down the sedacious men with the heat close to the sun's heat, as hot as the sun's heat. And then it said, literally word for word, this is the quotations, and I kept this specifically because it paints such a good picture. It literally says the desert was dyed red with human blood, while the eye was pursuing traitors and killing them one by one. It didn't stop until the sands were covered with bodies. Then, temporarily satiated, Sekhmet returned triumphantly to her father. So, she literally, like, he let her go and was like, nope, you're going to strike down every single human that is going to be treacherous and trying to overthrow me. So she literally kept going. She continued to kill man, every woman, every human she saw in sight for days. But then it got to the point where it started to get really excessive. And Ra considered that it had been enough punishment. So he decided that he was actually going to spare the rest of humanity that was still left. Problem was, he didn't know how he was going to be able to stop her because he had ordered her a very specific task. And he didn't think that she was going to stop killing until she had accomplished that task. Also, she had become incredibly bloodthirsty and was very much enjoying what she was doing. And the quotation says, like, his eye had tasted human flesh. He liked it, so she decided to kill again. So he kept trying to stop her, and he literally just couldn't. So eventually, this idea was thought that the only way to try to stop killing her was to actually just get her drunk, because beer was her favorite drink. She loved drinking beer. So he went and got some red pigment from the desert, and he ground it into incredibly fine powder. And then he mixed it in with the beer. He then literally made 7,000 red beer jars, and he poured them into the Nile. When he did this, the red beer and the liquid, like, it turned the Nile completely red. Sekhmet saw the red liquid, and she literally just assumed it was blood. She was so bloodthirsty. She was so, like, determined and motivated to, like, complete the task that she was assigned, that she went to the river wanting to drink it eagerly. She drank so much of it that she became completely intoxicated and drunk and just fell asleep. Now, here's where we get some differences in the story. Quite a few differences and variants in how this story kind of ends. So, one version is, it's said that when the Egyptian goddess finally woke up, she had literally just completely forgotten about her demand and purpose to kill every single human being. She felt completely satiated. She felt happy. She felt fulfilled. She felt like she had done her goal and her task. So she then returned to her father, where she was welcomed and rewarded for her services. In another variant, it is said that she drank until she fell asleep, and then when she woke up, she was Hathor again. She was no longer Sekhmet, she was Hathor. In another version, it says that when she woke up, she became so angry and infuriated that she was tricked and she was deceived, and that wasn't blood, and she was drunk and fell asleep and is intoxicated, that she actually literally leaves Egypt. And she doesn't come back until Thoth persuades her to come back. In another story, she awakes from her drunken stupor, and the very first creature that she lays eyes on is a god Poth, Ptah. She immediately falls in love with him. And because of this, this story is why she's portrayed as his bride. This is where you get that very divine union between the two, and where you get that harmony and that marriage. So that is the most common story of Sekhmet. That is a story of the destruction of mankind. Those are the different variants of that story. So that is where you see her being incredibly bloodthirsty. That's where you see her anger, and that's where you see that all coming up. Okay, I'm gonna jump in the chat before we start talking about working with her, how to work with her, and why you should work with her. Hold on. It's 9:41 a.m. I know, I prefer live sessions too, I get it. Hathor is considered like the goddess of, she's attached to like pleasure, beauty. She's similar to Isis, kind of in the Egyptian pantheon. I don't wanna, that's the best way to explain her. She's considered like the playful, the joyful, like the loving. Like if you were to separate like dualities, like she's like that spring, light, love, beauty, glamour, kind of like Aphrodite type feel, if that makes sense. You'll get more about her when I get to Egypt in my new series that I'm doing too. Because I'm doing that. I have my new series about all the different pantheons and stuff. I'm starting with Shintoism, but I'm working my way through the whole globe. So we'll get to Egypt. And you'll definitely hear more about her. Eventually, I'll probably start working with goddesses that aren't dark goddesses, but I have a lot of dark goddesses to get through, so that might be. And I'm teaching already like 7 different series, so I don't know if I can handle another one. But eventually. Can I name some what? Oh, dark goddesses, I can name a bunch. I've taught already like 15 different classes on them. You have Lilith, Kali Ma's considered a dark goddess. You have Keratin, you have Nyx, you have Eris, you have Sekhmet's obviously who I'm doing. You have Baba Yaga, you have Circe, you have Goddess Mav, you have like literally so many. If you want to, Medusa could even be technically considered one, even though she's not a goddess. But you can use Medusa. You have Hecate. You have so many dark goddesses. I think we already have 9 of my videos on YouTube. I think I've taught 15, 16 classes so far in Dark Goddesses. And I think my list that I have is probably, the last time I checked, like 40, 45 right now. And that's not even all the Dark Goddesses that you have access to. Yeah, there's lots. There's lots of Dark Goddesses. Persephone, she's my patron deity, and she's my favorite dark goddess. I love her to pieces. Because she's not just a goddess of spring, and anybody who sees her is just that is really missing out on a lot with her. Okay. So, any other questions, guys? Or we'll jump back in. Oh, you certainly can. You can follow me on any social medias. You can follow Divination. I also have my own business, modgepodgemystic.com. I do my own content. I have my own services I offer. I do my own workshops through there too. And I'm all over there. If you go to our Divination Facebook page, if you just click on my name, I'm everywhere. I'm one of the admins. My name is on almost every post. Oh shoot, I just meant to do that. I accidentally did that as a direct message. My bad. Hi, Michelle. I know that you already know my website. Oh yeah, I write blogs and I do a lot with Dark Goddesses. They're my favorite. I Dark Goddesses are my jam. This is the first class series I started teaching here. This is why I started teaching is I wanted to teach Dark Goddesses because no very few are doing it. Um, have a good day. I will see you next time. Okay, guys, let's jump back into class. Okay, so why work with Sekhmet? Sekhmet is often sought out by those who are facing challenges and obstacles and who really need protection. She is known to bring strength and courage and the ability to really overcome any obstacle because she's really sets you in that fire, standing firm in your power and who you are. She also is used and associated with healing and renewal, and she is incredibly popular lately. Why I'm teaching her as well when it comes to emotional wounds, overcoming trauma, shadow work, all of that fun jazz. So, next chunk when it comes to working with her, correspondences. What are correspondences? I think all of you guys have been in my class before who's here now. But if you're watching the replay and you haven't been with me before, a correspondence is an item, a symbol, anything that is meant to connect you to a specific energy through its representation. It is seen as a way to respect, honor, venerate, connect, all of that, whether it be a deity, whether it be a zodiac sign, whether it be a phase of the moon, whether it be a demon, whether it be any of that, that's what a correspondence is. It is meant to represent, connect, venerate, all of that. So, what you have for correspondences with Sekhmet, the planet Sun, the zodiac sign Leo, animal lion, lioness specifically, the element fire, she's connected to the sex of femininity. She's also connected to more of a mutable modality. Um, her symbols are the lioness, lions, sun, the sun disk, ankh, the Egyptian spinning cobra, a scepter formed by papyrus, funeral papyri, flames, fire, blood, the desert, all of that. Colors, red, yellow, orange, and gold. Themes are going to be destruction, chaos, war, plagues, fire, royalty, the afterlife, renewal, rebirth, medicine, healing, alternative medicine, all that fun jazz. A motto that you're going to want to use a lot for affirmations that come with her are going to be I'm pure strength and I honor my anger by giving voice to it. She's connected to your sacral and solar plexus, really more the solar plexus, but sacral and solar plexus both. Herbs you're going to be able to find that connect to her are going to be basil, bay leaves, catnip, bloodroot, ponchatouli, frankincense, myrrh, amber, pomegranate, dragon's blood, and red sandalwood. Stones and crystals, really almost anything that's going to be red attached to the element of fire or attached to the planet sun. So red spessartine, carnelian, it's my favorite. And honestly, the more I teach these classes, I'm starting to realize how much I use that stone. I use that stone a lot. I thought smoky quartz was like one of my top favorite ones, but carnelian might actually be pushing that one out. I'm realizing how much I actually use that stone. But carnelian, garnet, ruby, red agate, citrine, another fantastic one because that one's great for connecting to the sun. Tiger's eye is great for working with any deities that associate with any big cats. Fire agate, orange calcite, bloodstone, amber, zincite, and then cinnabar. So, how are you going to work with how to work with Sekhmet specifically? We're going to go through this because I want to make sure we have a half an hour to have you guys meet her in meditation. So if I don't go through it in super detail, please come back and read it. Because as you know, my study guides, they're pretty detailed for you guys. But how are you going to want to work with her? Just like every single relationship with any deity that you have, it's all going to be different based on you. So make sure you build it the way that works for you. So pick and choose what's going to work for you, follow your intuition, and honor your relationship. It's all going to be based on you. But this is some ideas, some ways. Always make sure that you're approaching her with respect. and reverence, she's one that you want to make sure you do that. And you want to make sure you're doing it when you're making sure that you're very much connecting and living by the standards of Mott, that you're very much morally aligned. You're not really struggling with that right now and like decisions that have to do with that. Because she's not going to take kindly to that. She is very fierce. So you want to make sure you are very respectful with her. How you're going to want to connect with her, just like with every deity I've ever written about, I've ever taught about. The very first way I always teach you guys is study, 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 study. Get to know her, read her mythologies, read her histories, read her incantations, read her poems, read the invocations. Get to know her. Read about her connection with Ra, learn about who Ra is, learn about what Mot actually is, learn about who Bast is, learn about who Hathor is, learn about the Egyptian pantheon, read the Egyptian Book of the Dead, study her. What better way do you get to know somebody than to get to know the information about who they are and where they came from? You're building a relationship with her just like you would with anybody else. Next, dedicate an altar to her. She can have her own. You can add her to a current one. You can have her be standing as an altar for protection, for healing. You can whatever you want to do. If you need more information about altar and how to create an altar and set up an altar, I've already taught a class on that. The study guide's linked here for you. I don't think that video's on YouTube yet. That will be one of the first ones I watch to get up. But if you need to learn more, you can read my study guide and always ask me questions, but set up your altar wherever feels comfortable for you. Have her representations for her, her symbol, her sigil, lions, a statue of her, an image of her, any of the correspondences we talked about above. That's what you can have associated with your altar. A lot of pagans and witches, when working with the divine feminine, they work with the triple goddess archetype. We've talked about it repeatedly in a lot of my different classes. I taught an entire class just on the triple goddess archetype alone and what it is and what it means. She is a goddess that can be used as triple goddess archetype if it's an archetype that you work with. If you choose to work with, she's typically paired with Hathor and Bast. Sometimes you'll see Isis instead of Hathor mixed in there. And typically Sekhmet is seen as the crone aspect. Hathor is usually seen as the mother, and Isis is usually seen as the mother, and then Bast is usually seen as the maiden. But if you want to work with her and you work with the triple goddess, she is one of those deities that you can have be one of those three. So she is seen. I've seen her plenty of times represented that way and worked that way. If you need to learn more about the triple goddess, I have the study guide linked here. I don't know if that class is on YouTube. It might be. Otherwise, the study guide's there for you. You can make sure you do offerings for her. We all like receiving presents, so do deities. She's no different. You can give her beer, pomegranate juice, gold, incense like frankincense and myrrh. You can give her anything that has to do with the sun, images of cats and lions, fire from candles or doing a sacred bonfire in her name, milk because she's a cat and they like milk, spicy foods to represent like fire. You can do red gemstones, dragon's blood resin, and incense. So those are great offerings that you can do for her. Just make sure that you typically leave offerings at a dedicated altar space or dedicated space for her, or when you're doing meditation, prayer, visualization work, and then refresh it often. Deities don't like it when you leave stuff out to rot and you don't clean it up. They're not happy about that. I wouldn't be either if somebody left rotten out food for like a month. Next, the way that you can connect to her is simply by standing up for yourself. She's all about power. She's all about justice. She's all about that movement and that action with anger. If you do actions to stand up for yourself, you create firm boundaries. If you are dealing with people in your life who frequently use you, they don't value you, they don't understand your worth, or it gets to the point where it's actually abuse, or you deal with those who are narcissistic in any way, shape, or form. If you have issues with family ties that are abusive, toxic, stand up for yourself, break those ties, cut those cords, set those boundaries. It's a great way to connect to her, and you can use her to do that. She's very, very often used in protection rituals. So very commonly for extra protection at your home or your work. She's really great for that. She's great for adding shields. If you're doing shield and barrier work, call on her fire, dude. Create a massive barrier of a firewall around you. Make it to where anything that crosses that barrier is literally going to be burned to ashes. That is unwanted. She's great for that. I use her a lot with my home protection, which and for my property. If you need to learn more about protection rituals specifically, I already taught 2 classes on that with a massive study guide. The study guide's linked here, and both of the classes are linked here too, because I know those are on YouTube. So you can check those out. Another way you can connect to her is simply by sunbathing. Just get outside. Enjoy the sunlight. Connect to those warm, bright rays that can connect you to her. I mean, she's also a cat. They like to lay and bathe in the sun, guys. Like, that's like one of their favorite things to do. So why not do the same that she would love to do with relaxing and self-care and just like really soak up that vital, energetic energy that the sun has to offer you. Like we literally cannot exist without it. So that's a great way to connect with her. You can connect with her by simply using an ankh or a sun disk in your practice. Add it to your altar, add it to rituals, add it to spells, hold it closely while you're meditating to your heart space, hold it while you're doing visualization work or prayers. So that's another way you can connect to her. Another way you can connect to her and work with her is perform solar magic. She is a solar goddess. She is a deity of the sun. What better way to connect with her than literally working with the very power, essence, and planet she's connected to and that she's meant to represent? There are endless ways to do solar magic. You can do it simply by meditating under the bright rays of the sun. You can make sun water. You can draw down the sun, working with crystals that are related to sun. There's so much solar magic that you can do. If you want to learn more about how doing solar magic, I actually wrote an entire incredibly detailed guide and blog post for my business. The link's in the study guide, and you can take a look at that. I went really in depth on how to work with the sun and solar magic. That's a really great way to connect to her. And I usually, when I call down the sun and I make sun water, I typically invoke her as well because I want it a lot more potent. Her and Amaterasu, those two are usually always with me when I'm doing solar magic. And personally, I believe solar magic is way more potent, way more powerful, and way more important than lunar magic is, hands down. The moon's crazy important, but we literally can't exist without the sun. Nothing on this planet. So, yes, the moon holds our planet in place and it helps control our gravitational force and all of that fun jazz. But yes. So, connect with her, the sun. You can also do any type of alternate healing because she's connected to medicine and healing, doing any of that. So consider taking a class or learning herbalism, DNA activation, past life regression, any type of healing modalities like Reiki, like any of that. That could be a great way to work with her and connect with her. Also through meditation, visualization, and dream work, just like with any other deity. You can call on her in meditation and visualization. You can ask her to send you messages in your dreams. You can have correspondences and correspondences of her underneath your pillow, near your bed, to invoke her in your dreams. I can't help you much more than that when it comes to dream work, because like I've said in a lot of my classes, I literally do not have access to that. Never have, never will. I don't dream, never have in my life, not once, and I literally just don't have access to that realm. So if you need more help with that, I can try to get you resources. I just personally can't help you. I did put a meditation in here for you that I wrote out as a way for you to kind of like do on your own if you would like to work with her and meet with her. You can record it yourself. Otherwise, maybe I guess I can maybe do that. Do a pre-recorded one. But I did write out a meditation here for you to use as a guided meditation when you'd like. So another way to connect to her is study the lioness. She's literally a lioness goddess. So what better way to connect to her than actually completely understanding that symbol and that entity that she represents and that is so intimately attached to her. Like I talked about before, you've never actually like truly looked at them. Like they're ferocious, like they're protective, like they are fierce. So really kind of like studying and getting to know that's another great way. Because she's attached to the sun and the vital energy of movement and all of that, just moving your body and being active is a really great way to connect to her. Standing up for others as well, because she's all about injustice and balance and making sure that like humanity is all about that cosmic balance we're living in Mott, that like standing up for others is a great way to do that. It helps bring balance in the world. It helps make sure that like you're being balanced. So that's another great way that you can connect to her. Okay, I've talked about this quite a few times. So one of the best ways you can connect to Sekhmet is living according to the principles of Amat. So in the legend of her enacting Ra's revenge, it's literally said that she did this because they didn't live to the principles of Amat. So what those principles are is the seven principles. The first one is truth, and it's the ability to see between fact and fiction. Justice, the state of equity between all things. Harmony, which is a state of alignment and balance between all things. Balance, which is both within an individual and with the world outside. Order, the state of clarity and a lack of excess. Reciprocity, the acknowledgement of that which goes around will come around. And propriety, performing correct actions to uphold truth, justice, harmony, balance, order, and reciprocity. These, by the way, incredibly similar to the Hermetic laws. But these are the principles according to Mott. These are the principles, like if you live and adhere to these within your life, within these standards, this is what she is demanding of you. This is why she came and decided that, like, this is why you don't follow these. If you would have been on Earth when Ra sent her loose, you would have been dead. Like, she would have slaughtered you. This is what she expects from humans. This is what we're supposed to maintain. This is what we're supposed to live by. So if you try to maintain and live your life that way, that's a way to connect to her and to honor her and to build a relationship with her. Because you're honoring her path, you're honoring what she believes, and you're making sure that you're connecting to the energy that she's really meant to represent. So the next way we have is shadow work. So just like with every other deity I've ever written or talked about, shadow work is a phenomenal way to connect to and work with the goddess. Especially with her being a dark goddess, due to her destructive nature, and she has this really insane ability to bring us into this very liminal space that's also very healing, and it's so ferociously powerful. Like you can't shy away from your worthiness and your power when you're in a space with her. And she's really great for that with shadow work. She really can shed light with a really burning fire on topics more focused on healing and past wounds and standing in your own personal power. If you have retribution that you need to dole out, anger, she's really great at destroying boundaries and bridges and barriers and making sure that we burn things that no longer serve us or are really not for the highest good. So she's really great for that with shadow. And those are the topics that you really want to focus on. You can always use invocation. You can always use prayer. Those are always great ways that you could always work with her. I did put some prayers and invocations in here for you written out that you can choose to use or not use. And for certain things, there's one in here for protection and another one for overcoming adversity. But she really does just really send you a message that like you are powerful, you are strong, you get to stand in that power. And if you feel that like your power is being questioned, if you feel like people are using their power to hurt others, if you feel like people are not using their power correctly, like you have every right to dole out like retribution and cosmic justice. You have every right to make sure that everything is balanced. She really teaches you and sends you a message that you are most supposed to be strong and victorious. Like you don't get to blame anyone or anything for your condition. Like it is all on you. You get to rise above your obstacles. You get to stand in your strength, not in being a victim, but being an absolute victor. You really get to be illuminated with like this bright, burning passion of abundance, of feminine strength, of making sure you have new opportunities, new potential, that you're living your highest purpose for the highest good of the collective. It really brings you that strength. How to know she's calling to you? There's lots of different signs. It's literally endless. Synchronicity is really what you just need to really look for. But here's some things that you might notice. Lions or lionesses start showing up everywhere, like in TVs and radios and books and images. You just start seeing them all over the place. You hear the name Sekhmet over and over and over again in random places, random conversations. Like the name is just coming up often. You are drawn to lions or large cats. You start to feel a very strong connection to like the zodiac sign of Leo, or if you're born in the zodiac sign of Leo, or any other fire sign as well. If you have an occupation in the medical field, specifically alternative healing as well, you may already feel an incredibly strong pull to her. She's already calling to you. If you actually have Egyptian descent, if you're in a phase of your life where you really need ferocity and standing up for yourself, if you really need justice and retribution and revenge, but justifiable wrath, remember, justifiable, not just blind, not justified. If you feel sudden call to the desert or you are already very called to the desert, that might be a sign as well. If you feel aligned more with the sun and the moon, if you consider yourself more a solar witch or a sun witch than a lunar one, that also could be a sign that she's calling to you. If you feel a strong pull to fight for social justice issues, if you feel a strong pull to fight and stand up for the little people, if you encounter large cats or start seeing cats go crossing your path, if you feel a lot more powerful and protective, or you feel like this very intimidating presence that's suddenly around you, and if you feel a sudden urge to take up martial arts or prove your offensive or defensive skills, because she's all about retribution and war and movement and action, that could be another sign as well. Okay, so to sum it up, before I jump into the chat, let me see if you have any questions, and then I have you guys meet her. How is she really going to help you? She's really going to help you look deep within. She's going to help you see courage to look at your shadows. She's going to help you to see courage to understand that you're worthy. She's going to help you to see courage to understand that, like, understanding your personal power and having pride is not necessarily a bad thing. Like, you need to have pride and personal power and confidence in yourself. There's just a line, and you don't want to become narcissistic and egotistical. But she lets you release any fear or worry about that. She will help guide you through a healing process and give you a lot of strength and empowerment. She really helps you speak your truth. Like, she doesn't allow bullshit to happen. Like truth is literally at the center, like on the tip of her tongue. She empowers you to not shy away from who you are, to not shy away from helping the world, to not be afraid of getting out in the world and speaking up when it matters. She can really help you become whole again, especially if you are having issues with duality because she's so attached to the sun. You get that masculine essence with her as well, with her divine feminine. And you also get just this light. The sun energy is so different than the moon. And when you work with goddesses, you get so much that lunar energy. So she really can help like this wholeness, just different. She's great for courage, strength, bravery, protection, all of that. She really will help you with that. So just remember, if you choose to work with her, you get to choose how you want to work with her, when you want to work with her. Just listen to your intuition, follow her guidance, and make sure that you do things that feel right and comfortable for you in your relationship with each other. She is going to be abrasive to work with. She is going to burn things down. She is going to really be transformative for you. So just remember, like, she's fierce and like she's got high standards, but like she will absolutely roar with protection when you need it. And like she will be there to back you up, and she will be there to serve the greatest good and the balance for the cosmos and make sure that we're maintaining the highest standards of who we are. Okay, I'm gonna jump into the chat, see if you guys have any questions. Yes, honey, yes. Hathor and Bast, they're all three of them are considered lioness deities and connected to like felines and big cats. I will wait to see if you guys have any questions for the chat, because I know I can't hear you. Otherwise, if you guys are ready, you don't have any questions or any comments, just like put it in the chat that you guys are just ready to go to meet her and do the summoning, and we can go to that. Okay, honey. You're so witty. Like, just like on off the cuff too. Like, I cannot do that like you can. Just can't. It's just you get me every time. You honestly actually kind of remind me a lot like my husband in that sense. Like he's very like off the cuff, witty, but sarcastic as hell. Like, oh my God. He's one of those people where like he could lie to you and like tell you the sky was green and he's so good at convincing you like you're gonna have to go check. Like it's nuts. Okay. So let's me get my stuff ready and then you guys, like always, I give you guys it's it is a skill to have, honey. Like it is a skill to have. Like I kudos. Like he's literally like the only person that like can actually like bullshit me. Like I'm like boom. Virgo, intense Virgo, in 9 of my 12 houses. Like you can't bullshit me. Like I literally see through like I see your intentions, like the heart of the core of who you are. I analyze like no other, but him, like, oh my God. Like it's something else. And I can definitely see you being like that. Because you are so witty. You are so witty. And it impresses me because I cannot do that. I have to like think so hard to be funny and witty. A lot of times when I'm funny, I'm not even trying to be. It's an issue. Okay, so what I'm gonna do here, guys, since like what I always do, we're gonna do our meeting, and I'm gonna bring her to you. You guys are gonna get a couple minutes to get into whatever you like to call it, your sacred space, centered, grounded, your meditative state, getting into your sacred temple, creating your sacred container, whatever the verbiage is that you use. I use sacred space and sacred container most often, so that's what you'll hear from me, but it's all of those things. So what I will have you do is you guys can start doing that. You can start getting ready. If you would like anything with you, if you have any of those red stones that we talked about, you can definitely grab those. If you have any alcohol or beer, you can definitely grab that if you want that there. Otherwise, if you want to light a candle, to have some fire, element of fire there with you, you can certainly do that as well. Otherwise, I have all of that. I always do that for you guys, so you don't have to worry about too much. But I always let you guys know if you want it, you can. So I want you guys to take it's usually about 5 minutes I give you guys. I want to make sure you guys are really like locked in, ready to go. My camera is going to stay off because I don't want to be a distraction. I don't want you guys looking at the screen and what if I'm moving because I do that while I'm summoning. I don't want to be a distraction. So my screen will be off, and then when I unmute myself, I will start casting right away. I'll get that circle cast and we will go. I don't know if you've been with me in live class before, Isadora. If you have not, like this is like I'm literally bringing her here for you guys to summon and meet her. It's going to be a very guided experience. If you're willing, if you want to do that, you are welcome to stay. If not, I never make people, because some people don't. So that is what's going to be happening. My energy is very healing as well. It is a very healing, comforting energy. So you'll feel that coming through as well. I'm a very gentle. I'm a very gentle guy. And I promise, honey, I'm not gonna have you separate your bodies this time, like I did with Baba Yaga. She's a unique deity. So I promise I won't be doing that this time. I know that was a little intense for you. It's usually intense for people, so I get that one. Okay, so guys, my camera is going to go off. I'm going to mute myself and I want you guys to get in your space. Have everybody take a big, deep breath in and out. And as you do so, making sure we're grounded and centered and all of our energy is in this one space. Calling back all of our energy right here with us. I call to the spirits and guides, to the guardians and gatekeepers of each and every soul within this circle. I ask that you encircle us in protection, guidance, connection, wisdom, openness, and transformation. I call to the guardians and gatekeepers of the four directions, and I thank you so very much for turning your gaze towards us this afternoon. And I ask you to join us. Call to the direction of east and the element of air, for you are the breath in my lungs and the reason that I can breathe. You bring transformation and wisdom on your winds of change each and every time you flow through our life. I honor your breath, your power of change, and I honor and acknowledge that you are the breath of life for all. I ask you, element of air, and the guardians and gatekeepers that guide you, to hold the eastern gateway this afternoon. Call to the direction of south and the element of fire. You are our passion, our spark. You're the ember in our souls for motivation. You, dear element of fire, are the star of the show today. You burn so very bright and you blaze and you guide us in the darkness. You bring us warmth and you give us shelter when we seek it. I call to you, dear element of fire, for you are our passion, you are our desire, you are our anger, you are our motivation, you are our retribution. We call to you, dear element of fire, to allow us to know when we need to use our flames to enact that retribution, when we need to teach others a lesson. We call to you, dear element of fire, to guide us to the bright and bold and vibrant and confident planet of the sun. We ask that you allow us to feel how hot and bright that element of fire burns on this planet. We call to you, element of fire, to guide us through the burning flames that which is Sekhmet. She is a star of the show today whom we ask to be here. We ask you, dear element of fire, to hold the southern gateway for us this afternoon. I call to the guardians and gatekeepers the direction of west and the element of water. You teach us, dear water, that your depths are vast and deep, and that moving in our tides can cause us to either drown or float, just like our deep, fast emotions do. You teach us, dear element of water, that we can either swim with grace when we need to, or we can float when your depths call and try to drag us down. You, dear element of water, are the life force for each living, breathing being. You're the reason Earth is so very unique. We call to you, dear element of water, and we ask you to hold the western gateway this afternoon for us. I call to the guardians and gatekeepers of the direction of north and the element of earth. For you are the home of every living being. You are the resting place of every ancestor, of every line, of every generation. You are where each and every bone lies. You are where we all begin and where we all end. You, dear element of earth, you are both the populated cities and the vast uncharted territories yet to be found. We call to you, dear element of earth, and we ask you to hold the northern gateway this afternoon. I call to our guardians and gatekeepers, to all spirit guides, interdimensional beings, elementals, deities, demons, angels, and keepers of the watchtowers. I call to all other entities that are willing to protect, guide, and assist us this afternoon. And I thank you so very much for holding the gateways above, below, and all around. The circle has been cast. Amen. Aho, so moved it is. With the circle being cast, I ask that everybody take a big deep breath in and out. As you do so, feel the protection, the guidance, and that burning hot, fiery warmth that's surrounding you right now. I want you to breathe it in and out all the way through all of your energy systems, from the top of your head to the bottom of your toes. Feel the warmth encompassing you and surrounding you. We take a big deep breath in and out. That warmth starts to get brighter and hotter. You start to notice it's burning more like flames and fire. As you feel that warmth, that energy start to fill up your space and encompass you, we call to the great goddess Sekhmet, the Egyptian goddess who is of great power. We offer you our praise. You are a fierce-hearted lioness. You're known as the great Eye of Ra and the beloved Thoth. You create just as you destroy. We call to you, dear Sekhmet, in this warmth and this flame, and we ask you to please be here with us. To guide us in this bright, burning passion, in this anger, this retribution, where it allows us to burn things so that we can heal, we can change, and we can grow. We call to you, dear Sekhmet, for you are the wielder of mighty vengeance, but you also are the protector and granter of healing and kindness. You can either rain plagues down on us in illness, or you can heal our wounds, hear our prayers, and allow us to prosper. We understand, dear Sekhmet, that you are the keeper of cosmic balance and the high standards that you ask for us to hold. We honor that, and we request your presence here this afternoon. As we've honored her, we've asked her to kindly be here with us. We're now going to go ahead and create the sacred space the sacred space that we are going to call her to enter with us. As we do this, I want you to take a big deep breath and remember that bright, burning, fiery energy that you had already felt that was starting to surround you. I want you to feel the warmth of it on your skin. I want you to hear the crackling. I want you to smell the things that are burning in the air from the flame. I want you to feel how hot this heat is. It's coming from the fiery depths of the sun. It's here to represent the bright, burning retribution of Sekhmet. A fire that burned so hot it created a desert. It destroyed and almost killed all of mankind. This fire, though it may be this hot, but it's not burning you. Hotness is there to guide you, there to show you what those emotions of deep, deep, burning flames bring up. Is it revenge? Is it retribution? Is it a deep, burning desire of healing, transformation? Is it a burning desire to protect yourself and others? Those bright flames are there to guide you and protect you to that. As you start to become familiar with that energy you're feeling and what those flames are bringing to you, I want you to take that energy and feel it floating right in center in front of you. It's there for you to call on, it's there for you to feel. And as it's sitting there, I want you to take a big, deep breath in and out. And as you do so, and you bring this fiery ball of energy with you, this burning, hot, small personal sun of flames, I want you to now envision and imagine you are in a desert. There's sand all around you, the only thing you can see. The sun is high in the sky, burning, just hot and blazing above you. You feel the dry air and the dry heat. You hear the sand moving in the dunes all around you. You look off in the distance and you see pyramids. As you take a big, deep breath in, you take a step forward and you start moving towards those pyramids. As you move forward, that bright, burning, personal ball of fiery sun continues to be in front of you and moving with you. It's guiding you towards those pyramids, whether it be in anger and retribution, in healing, protection. It's guiding you towards those pyramids you see in the distance. With each and every step closer, you feel the sand moving beneath you. You feel the heat around you. You feel the dryness in the air. And as you get closer, your bright orb of red, yellow, orange, personal, fiery flame of a sun that's in front of you starts to burn a little hotter and starts to get a little bit bigger. As you continue to walk, you are now right in front of the pyramids. As you finally get there, after a long, tiresome journey, you feel hot and tired. You notice that there's a large pyramid and a middle pyramid and two other small pyramids on either side. Your bright, burning personal ball of a sun automatically moves you and directs you towards that middle pyramid. It darts inside and you follow it. As you follow it inside, you enter the pyramid. Quiet. It's painted with wonderful pictures and symbols, and you look all around you as you take in the magnificence of it. You notice any specific symbols you see on the walls? Do you see a solar disk? Do you see the Ankh? Do you see a lion? Do you see the constellation of Leo? You take it all in. As you take it all in, you take a big, deep breath as you honor the magnificence. And then you realize you don't quite feel that personal sun quite so close to you. You don't feel the warmth quite as intensely. So you look around and you try to locate it. As you're locating it and you look around, you finally notice that your bright personal ball of sun has moved in front of a throne. As you take in the throne, you notice that there's actually somebody sitting in it. Right when you notice that there's somebody sitting at the throne, you see that it's a beautiful woman. You notice that she's got the head of a lioness and the body of a woman, and she's just exuding power. You feel her power, you feel intense, even just heat just coming off of her. It almost feels like it's too hot to even take a step forward, but you can't look away. You notice your own personal orb of sun is literally just sitting right in her lap, as if she doesn't even notice the heat, and as if it's communicating with her, receiving messages to bring back to you, as if she's weighing if that personal sun of yours is even worthy to be in this pyramid. As you continue to take in the throne and that beautiful lioness of a woman in front of you, and you feel that heat just burning off of her, all of a sudden you're asked, "Who are you?" And she waits for you to state your answer. As you take a big, deep breath in, you decide how you're going to answer to connect with her. She asks you who you are. Who are you? Once you state who you are, she looks down at your personal sun and gives it a nod of approval. She then nods and asks you to approach her. She tells you, "I am Sekhmet, the lioness goddess of healing, destruction, war, and plagues.
No way that this has happened.
Why are you here, and what do you request of me?" she asks of you.
Right?
As you take a big, deep breath in, and you realize the heaviness of that question, the importance of that question, you notice your own personal sun is starting to move its way back towards you. You reach out to it and you connect to it. And as you connect that bright, powerful personal sun and that energy that's all yours and burning so bright and hot for you, you know the answer of why you are here and what you request of her. You know it with a burning power of intention, a burning power of confidence and bravery.
So,
And as she sits there and waits in silence, you answer and you tell her exactly why you're here and what you're requesting of her. As you tell her, she sits in her throne and she listens. She takes it all in, and your own personal power is there. That personal sun of confidence, of vitality, holding your anger, your retribution, your need for justice, your need for protection. It's there for you to connect to. And she watches it and listens to your answer. As you're speaking to her, you wait to see if she has a reply for you. As you wait, you can look around the walls again if you'd like. You can have complete eye contact and give her full attention. You can call back to your personal sun and power. You can touch it. You can feel it. You can see if there's any messages she's already bestowed to you between yourself and that personal power. As you're doing this, you start to feel your flames burn brighter and hotter. You start to feel more of an urgency and a deeper connection. And you take 3 deep breaths in and out. She rises from her throne and she speaks to you. As she's doing this, your own personal power and sun is there for you to connect to harness her power, to feel her burning flames to burn bright for you. bring back with you, to burn those who need to bring retribution where you need, to bring protection where you need, and to heal and burn away any illnesses and ailments that need to be no longer plaguing you. As you listen to the message she has for you and the words she speaks to you, you take them in with utter respect and reverence. You feel the ferocity of the message she has to deliver and the importance of it. Once she's done speaking, she returns back to her throne and informs you that you can leave now. You take 3 deep breaths and you show her a sign of reverence, respect, or gratitude, whether it be by bowing in thanks, simply stating thanks, or making arrangements to meet and honor her later and again. Whatever it may be, make sure that you honor, respect, give gratitude for the message that she spoke to you today, and for her allowing you to enter her pyramid this afternoon. After giving your thanks and taking in your full message and giving your honor and respect, you call back all bits of your personal power and sun that's in this pyramid with you. You make sure that bright, burning energy of vitality and strength, confidence, personal power, and anger is all there back in front of you. Once it is, you turn and you leave and you exit the pyramid. You're back outside onto the sands of the desert. You see the bright sun burning up in the sky above you, and you feel the dry heat all around you. You continue to walk away as you let the messages from your visit with Sekhmet sink in. The pyramids disappear behind you. Whenever you're ready, you can take 3 big deep breaths in and out, and you can call yourself back into the present space that you're in. As you do this, I will call back and close our circle. I call to the guardians and gatekeepers of the direction of east and the element of air. I thank you so very much for holding the Eastern Gateway this evening. And I release you. I call to the guardians and gatekeepers of the direction of south and the element of fire. I thank you so very much for holding the Southern Gateway this evening, and I release you. I call to the direction of a direction called the direction of north and the element of earth. I thank you so very much for the guardians and gatekeepers for holding that gateway, and I release you. I call to the guardians and gatekeepers the direction of west and the element of water. I thank you so very much for holding the western gateway this afternoon, and I release you. I call to the guardians and gatekeepers, all other elementals, all other deities, interdimensional deities, spirit guides, demons, and any other entities, including the keepers of the watchtowers, that were holding the gateways above, below, and all around. And I thank you so very much for doing so, and I release you. The circle is now closed. Amen. Aho, so it is. Okay, guys, I'll let you take a few deep breaths and come back, and then we can either or we'll be done with class. Okay, guys, hopefully that was everything that you wanted. I did it a little bit differently because I specifically guided you someplace this time. I did that with Baba Yaga too, but I hope that that got you where you needed to. I hope you got a message. I never ever expect you guys to ever talk about it if you don't want to, because meeting with the deity is incredibly personal. If you'd like to, you can. You can put it in the chat. If you don't want to, you don't have to. That's totally up to you. Yep, I'll wait, honey. Don't worry. I'll give you guys time. And I hope you guys enjoyed it. I hope you guys learned a lot. And if you guys have any questions, you guys can always ask me. Oh, I didn't realize I didn't put my camera back on. My bad. And I will definitely wait. I will definitely wait to chat. If you guys want to type out anything about your experience, go for it. Thank you. I really appreciate it, Isadora, and I'm glad that I'm glad you enjoyed it. And I hope that you got some messages you needed to hear. And if you want to work with her again, you got all the information and ways of how to do so. And by the way, if like you're sweating and hot right now, that makes perfect sense. I'm like profusely sweating and dripping. So I usually am when I work with her. You're welcome, Michelle. Let's see, honey, what do you got? You're always so descriptive. Okay, so highlights of my experience. She tried to get in my face to intimidate me. That makes sense. You did the same. Okay. Yeah, and it makes sense that she'd be pleased by that as well, because that's you standing in your power. She's in leather. Ooh, leather. That I like that. Sexy black heels and a revealing bottom down crop top. She's on a throne under the edge of the pyramid, partially in the shadows. You see a ball drat behind you that you, you ran out. The art in the throne was cats mauling, eating, and chasing and killing mice. Huh. There were two segments for you. One in the throne and one guiding you. Sorry guys, my son just woke up from his nap. Dad has him now though. So let's see, there are two segments, one on the throne and one guiding you, kind of. The one guiding you was a servant, and his real form was a cat that scampered off when I talked to the real segment. That is really interesting, honey. And I really, ooh, that's very interesting. Birds, rodents, and people too. Okay, super interesting. I mean, yes, she literally almost killed all of humanity. So it makes sense that that humans would be in there. Like she literally almost killed all of humanity. I love yours. Yours are always so vivid, but like seeing two of them, she was calm. The servant one, the second one, you're saying that she was just like really calm and didn't try to like intimidate you, or one Sekhmet and tried to intimidate you, then she was calm. Or both. Both. Yeah. Usually she's very like, what's the word I'm looking for? It's like a very regal calm. Like you know that she's calm, but like she also has that like regal of like, if you do one thing to upset me, that calm's gonna disappear like that type of like thing. And like, I don't know if she felt that way for you, but usually for me, like she gives me that feeling. One picture I noticed is a cat playing with a ball of yarn. That could be like the Hathor Bast kind of aspect to her too. Because like Bast and Hathor and like those, they're really kind of like seen as twins often and like counterparts. That's the really playful side. That's the really playful, the fun, the full of life, the like experience side. So that makes sense that you would see that too. Makes a lot of sense. I'm glad this was just as vivid for you as what I normally do when I let them come to your sacred space. So I'm super glad this was just as. Did I give you guys enough time to take in all of the environment around you and to be able to like feel everything that was going on too? Oh, I'm sure she was like a cat and mouse kind of playing. I'm sure she was poking, prodding, like cat, like trying to see. Okay, good. I'm glad I gave you guys plenty of time. Fabulous. It's always that's one thing when it comes to when you guide people is you have making sure you have the balance of making sure you're not leaving them with too much time without guidance and then making sure you're giving them enough time. So I'm glad. Good. Oh, I'm glad this was great for you guys. Okay, well, if you guys don't have anything else, I am so happy you guys were here. And if you guys ever have any questions, you can always reach out. You guys always have this study guide. And yeah, you can always hit me up too for services too through my business too, because I do deity one-on-one deity work and guided stuff too. I have a workshop coming up that's really detailed about teaching you guys about it. Since she's a deity, you can choose to do in that session too. So thank you guys so much for being here. My next class is Thursday. I am going to be doing, that's my magic and witchcraft basics class, and I believe it's elemental magic. And then tonight, don't forget that Alex is doing dice class. So that's tonight too. So thank you guys so much for being here. I really, really appreciate it. And I'll see you next time with Dark Goddess Devotionals. I think I'm gonna do Queen Maeve. I think I'm gonna do Queen Maeve, or I might do Nyx. I'm not sure. I'm not sure. But I think I'm gonna do Queen Maeve though. Beltane is just a really great time, I think, to do her. Or I might pick somebody else because Beltane was all about sex and it's like my favorite holiday. Beltane's literally my favorite holiday. I love how it's just all about sex and I love it. So yeah, I think I'm gonna do Queen Maeve. I'm not sure though. I'll let you know. But we do have Divine Masculine Devotionals though next week, and I'm doing Pan. So we're gonna do Pan next. And he's great for Beltane, so that's also why. Okay, have a good day, guys.